Between that and elderly parents, women are out of the workforce. About 33% more than men are out of the workforce. So we're also taught to play with dolls and nurture and not, you know, not climb any corporate ladder. Say to me, oh, my husband takes care of that. So the first thing to note is your lifestyle will be different. I know, what if my lifestyle's different? 4 divided by 2 is not 4. And women have an amazing capacity to rewrite their stories in general and, become greater.
Welcome to the Just Separated podcast. Hi, I'm Karen Oman, a thanatologist, grief counselor, divorce strategist, and co-author of the Just Separated workbook. I draw on years of personal and professional experience to guide you through the challenges of your divorce. Together, with our expert guests, we'll equip you with the clarity, resilience, and tools to take charge and move forward with confidence. Follow Just Separated and join us as we explore the many different facets of divorce. Hi, welcome to the Just Separated podcast. I'm Karen, your host and co-founder of Divorce Workshop. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about your money story, and our guest expert is Marni Saifert. Marni is a certified financial planner with 30 years of experience helping people achieve financial abundance. Marni's expertise spans all aspects of financial planning, investment planning, retirement planning, credit planning, and budget and tax planning. But what makes Marni different? Marni's not just doesn't treat the symptoms of financial stress, she goes straight to the root cause. Your money story. Your money story is your unique set of beliefs, experiences, and narratives you've developed over time that shapes how you think, feel, and act around money. It influences how you earn, spend, save, and make financial decisions. Welcome, Marni, to the Just Separated podcast.
Thank you. 31 years.
31 years.
That bio, yeah, 31 years in the industry. Yeah, it's
Wow.
the only job I've ever had as a grown up. But yes,
and that's why you're the expert, right?
Yep.
But I remember seeing you on social media, and I was like, "Wow, she's onto something." Because I said to you before, I had no idea that we carried such baggage when it comes to the money story, right? And so I'm thinking, because it's a divorce podcast, that for divorced people, it's even more intensified, or it's a new money story. Is that correct?
I would say, so first of all, just on money story in general, it's a paradigm, which we all have paradigms on everything. We have paradigms, for, this is, as you said, a divorce podcast. So the men or the spouses we choose are based on paradigms, right? So we get what we believe, not what we know. Or some of us would not have chosen the spouses that we have chosen. So they're based on patterns or paradigms, groups of thoughts and beliefs. And so it's the same thing with money. So every single person has a money story. Some people have ones that are more healthy than others. That's it. Where the divorce becomes particularly interesting is that you could have had a perfectly fine money story growing up, but either or vice versa. I've seen people that their marriage changed their money story for the better. So it's not only one way. And then divorce, as you know, and we've talked about it together, decimates people mostly financially. And so it creates a brand new money story that is usually not empowering.
Is that one of the reasons why you've gotten, I want to ask you too, what is the real reason that you got into this? Because I said, when I saw you like a year and a half ago, I said, you're onto something. So what made you decide to start talking about this? And
well, I've been in the financial planning industry, as I said, for 31 years. And I'm a spiritual person. So I'm into, I've always, not always, but definitely somewhat, but definitely more in the last 3, 4 years, 5 years, been into more mindset stuff. But it was very apparent that people were controlled by what they believed and not by what they know, because you would see multi-millionaires, in rags. And it's not, wealth is personal. You don't have to want designer clothes. But we're talking about what was obviously scarcity, feeling like they couldn't afford it. So, here people are walking around with, lots of money that, you would think, oh my gosh, if I only had that, I would feel so free and secure. And it's not true. They don't. So, because their internalized money story or beliefs is scarcity, they don't feel secure. It doesn't make sense to you, from an outside perspective, but if you understand how you're controlled by these things. And so I saw that people were not enjoying their wealth too. I come from, my own personal situation where money was hard to come by in my family growing up, and watched my mother struggle. So I was taught that money is hard. I was taught that money was difficult. And then you go out into the world that way. But I found that people suffer around money, very much so. And in divorce, terrible. There's tons of anxiety, angst, lack of financial literacy for women. Lot of, unfortunately, it's often the men. I'm trying to be, pretend it's not, but a lot of financial abuse, on the men's side. Because as women, we carry the children and most often care for the children, we are out of the workforce a lot more, and the emphasis is not placed on us to be sort of, breadwinners. And so we kind of get in the not in the power position most often when there's a divorce around money. So it's very anxiety provoking. People do not want to lose their lifestyle. People do not, a lot of people have mixed that with a bad money story. And people are like, I see people that have $300,000 jobs that are like, I'm going to end up in a basement apartment. And I'm like, how? Like, you're not. I mean, you're not going to have the same lifestyle, you know.
Can you explain to me why women have always struggled with this? Like, I think when we talked before, you mentioned about credit cards not till 1974 and bank accounts. Can you give us a little reason on why there's this history of women not
Why
being
do women
very
get paid
literate?
less?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Well, but women, like I said, we're definitely like, a lot to be proud of, but we're behind the eight ball, for sure when it comes to any type of financial equality. But, in traditional families of any sort in which, you go to have children, somebody's got to carry the kids, and someone's got to care for the kids. And so between that and elderly parents, women are out of the workforce. About 33% more than men are out of the workforce. So we don't have the same experience. We're also taught to play with dolls and nurture and not, you know, not climb any corporate ladders. Now that's not true, like overall anymore. That's changing, but you really can't change the dynamic of, wanting to fight for more mat leave and at the same time wanting to be, so women often get around to their careers later, or they sacrifice, time with their kids and stuff like that. So I think it's always been that way. I think women have always been told, I see, we're in 2025, and, I often see women say to me, oh, my husband takes care of that. Well, husbands leave, they die, things happen. Or my dad takes care of that. They'll even hand it off to the next capable, they don't feel themselves capable adult to help them make financial decisions. And so I think that's bullshit. So I'm thinking like, no, you need to understand, as 99% of the time we outlive men. And so there is a huge transfer of wealth into women's hands when they're older. So what happens if you don't know anything? Mismanagement of money, not doing anything with your money, not taking any calculated, smart financial risks, susceptible to fraud. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that can happen if you don't know. You're handing over your finances to someone else. So I'm pretty adamant about people having general financial knowledge. I have a group coaching program, and I make, that's one day is mindset, but one day is a week is financial literacy.
So do you think there's a lot, in general, a lot of avoidance when it comes to dealing with finances? Is that a
That's
big,
one type of money story.
yeah.
A lot of people are avoidant, but some people are avoidant, and people are avoidant in general because they feel stupid, I think, from lack of financial literacy. I see that in men as well. But they're also scared. I mean, people have a lot of like kind of crossed messages, when, just as a funny example, my daughter had gotten a couple, speeding tickets. So she's terrified of the mail now. So she's like, oh my God, mommy, is that my name on the mail? So, people we put together, we see mail, we think of like, oh my God, bills, people, go crazy if they see, something from the CRA or the tax, so we're taught to sort of fear these things as kind of like big and unknown, and that's because nobody breaks it down from childhood. When my kids were little, we would be at Toys R Us, and they'd be like, "Mommy, can I have that?" And I'd be like, "Do you have enough money for it?" We would take out the iPhone and figure out what the tax would be. Like, people are not doing that, right? Teaching their kids that this is just how you deal with finances. So we're not given any financial literacy. So I don't think it's new. I don't think avoidance is just new. I think when people are afraid of what they see, they avoid it. That's just across the board, regardless of whether or not it's money. So we also have a huge stigma around, things like debt and, social media kind of makes things a lot worse. Oh, everybody's doing better than me. Every single person tells me that everybody else is doing better than them. When we're all humans, we're all on the struggle bus, to some degree. Maybe money is not scarce, for you, but maybe it's something else, right? We're just human beings, and so people often feel, if they don't look at the situation, it's not there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that with all the divorcing and the widows I've dealt with, right? That they tend to, I think I mentioned one before when we talked, I mentioned about a lady that was worth millions, and she told me in a session that she's going to be a bag lady,
Yeah,
and
and and then it's interesting because, you think to yourself, that's ridiculous, but honestly, that is what they feel.
mhm.
Like, and it creates a lot of problems in relationships, where people are like, "Oh, my husband, my wife, they're cheap. They're not listening to me. They don't care about what I care about." But they may feel, they may have that scarcity mentality, and they may actually genuinely feel that doing that reno for $50,000 is, so anxiety provoking for them.
So when you work with people, what are the like, especially like women in divorce, or widows? What are some of the things that you do to help them deal with this long term or not long term, depending on who you are, money story?
So I do financial coaching as well, like personal financial coaching. I used to do it like if people would hire me, but I don't anymore. Now I say, like, it's got to be on the backside of doing my group coaching program, because other than that, I'm just like going to a financial advisor or plan. I'm just treating the symptoms. So if I don't, saying to you, put your money there, what do you think about that, or how much do you want to put in an RSP, that's not helping you long term. So what I do is, and I just recently, in the last 6 months, don't take anyone on that hasn't been through the group coaching program, because you have to even change your mindset around facing money. So for instance, I have the group coaching where one day I teach money mindset, one day I teach financial literacy. The money mindset is, the amount of people that show up are double. Nobody shows up for I have to like pull teeth to get people to do the financial literacy because they're scared. It's not interesting. I don't know. It's boring. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't understand what you're saying. And so it's really important that you tackle the mindset piece first so that you're not avoidant, and then people start to show up and ask questions. Like last night we discussed estate planning. Nobody on the call had a will. What? Like, so yeah, I mean, when I deal with people, first you got to change your mindset. That's 100%. That'll deal with 70% of your problems. Like, the truth is,
70%.
once you're able to bring money into your life, deal with scarcity, face abundance, you can hire someone to do the money stuff. That's not something that you know what I mean? You just have to have general knowledge of how this all works so you can have a conversation. The part that's the bitch is the block to even like face it, bring it in. My program is 3 parts. One is awareness. Like, how did you get this way? Why do you think this way? That kind of thing. And then, we move into what I call choice. So jumping out of the matrix, what do you want to believe? Right? Like, somebody said to me, "Oh, every time I get money, it leaves." Is that a belief that serves you? How's that working out for you? Well, it's not. then don't believe it anymore, right? So I made the choice years back that I don't believe anymore that I have to trade my time for money. That's bullshit. I don't. I have to give value for money. I don't have to trade any time for money. So you choose what you believe. There's also a huge component about judgments, value and worth. That's one of the lessons that people go, that's why I don't charge enough. That's why I'm not asking for the raise. Why, people often say to me, "Oh, I've been in this stupid job for 25 years for the same amount of money." Are you held prisoner? Like, in your mind you are, but leave. Well, I'm going to wait to see. What are you waiting for? So people don't realize unless it's really pointed out, and I took a long time to make it, to figure out the cadence of the program, but it's very intentional. um you know I buck people up against their beliefs a lot. I made the decision to do it quickly in 3 months rather than like 6 months or 8 months, because then people will hit their paradigms or their beliefs more and more, and out you go. They just avoid it and
I,
don't
I
come.
hear imposter syndrome all the time. Like even at the clinic I worked at, we had a talk and everyone was like, oh, well, we all have imposter syndrome. Like we all don't want to ask what we're worth, or we don't feel we're of value. So I guess it's hard for us to believe that we could go in and ask the boss or and say, you know what, I deserve a raise, or that's a
Charge more
belief
for your
then.
Yeah, because yeah, so I use different various forms of I reprogram you. Like by month 3, you're not even the same person if you participate. I can't go into your mind, osmosis. So you have to put in the work. So for instance, one of the things I do is I drop daily affirmations, and not like I am beautiful. You can't, that's not the way affirmations work. You have to repeat the same ones every single day. And then you have to think about, finding evidence in your world that that is true. So, I am a wealth creator. Ugh. Do you have a monthly savings plan? No, set one up. I am a wealth creator. I mean, I guess it's $100, but I guess I am creating wealth. I'm a wealth creator. I guess I could create more wealth, and so, okay, that one's fine. I created the affirmation that God wants me to be rich so that I can, have see and do and have all the things in the world that I want to and help as many people as I want to. That was a great one to have around thinking that, wealthy people are greedy, or, it's not noble. We're taught that having money isn't noble. So we're kind of screwed to begin with, right? Like our original money story is money doesn't grow on trees, kind of like that it's a sin. And so we're kind of like behind the 8 ball to begin with. Nobody ever says, go grab as much money as you can, sweetheart. Um, so we all have, I mean, I guess it's a good business for me because there's nobody that doesn't have limiting beliefs around money.
Or the one where work really hard, 70 hours a week and work, 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 work.
Yeah, that's part of my last month is where I talk about future self. So that's something that I deal with, and we don't, is actually hard work negates progress. It's just busyness. We're not built for that. And that's why you get ideas in the shower. That's why before you go to bed, you can't fall asleep because you're finally at rest. And when you're finally at rest, your mind can think. Ideas will come to you. Things will come back up, right? And so being busy, and again, like for me, having my own business, I don't want this business if it's 70 hours a week. Who the hell wants to work 70 hours a week? I don't want to work 70. Like, people go into it for freedom, obviously to be of service to people and to do other things, but financial freedom. And that's the thing too. Like, your aspirations don't have to save the world. You can give to charity. You know what I mean? You don't have to, like, what you do for a living. People say, well, I want a fancy house, but I can't decide, what is the good reason? Because you want it. You're allowed to want.
I think that's the key, what you just said. You're allowed to want. Like you're allowed to have this stuff or
You're
whatever
allowed to
you
desire
desire.
it.
Desire,
Everything.
yeah.
There's nothing in the world that didn't begin with desire. I mean, there's the more spiritual part of me, right? So every day, every mindset day I have, we also end with a meditation. People cry, because
Mhm.
just tapping into future self, doing, forgiveness work, letting go of baggage, visualization, all that kind of stuff. Um, Yeah, you're allowed to desire. Desire is the beginning. The reason that we have cell phones is because somebody desired not to be, stuck to the wire on the wall. The reason we had cordless phones is because somebody desired to walk around. And then on top of that desire, somebody had, the will to act.
So if you have divorcing women, which I'm sure you've dealt with many, and even
Yep.
men, I guess, um,
Men are less
it
apt to ask for help from a woman.
yeah, that's true. Even even for them though, like it's intensified, whatever. It was for me, as you've said at the beginning of the podcast, your lifestyle is going to change. We know it's a death of relationship. We know there's a lot of grief there, and half some of the grief is the financial aspect. How do you work, like, just one thing or so, how do you work with a divorcing woman um to help her feel like not so scared or uncertain, because it's such a common thing that they're like, I'm ruined financially, even if they have a good job or not. Is
Well,
there any?
yeah. Firstly, um, I've been through it. I'm a divorced mother. Um, so, I know, and I've been in the industry for a long time, dealt with, I mean, we attract who we are. So dealt with a lot of divorced women, hundreds and hundreds. So the first thing to note is your lifestyle will be different. I know, what if my lifestyle's different? 4 divided by 2 is not 4. So it will be. So acceptance. It is what it is. You could be a multimillionaire in 2 years after that. Like what's in front of you has no limit whatsoever. So that's why I use future self concept, because we tend to believe that who we are or who we were or who is who we are going to be. And that is not the truth. So a lot of like hope, a lot of understanding that, all right, like it is what it is. Women don't leave because they don't know how they're going to get on financially. I had a call with somebody this week that has 4 kids and like barely will be able to scrape by, but what is your freedom worth? What is your mind, what is beginning again worth? And women have an amazing capacity to rewrite their stories in general and become greater. And so usually it's a death of a relationship. It's a death in general. I always say, divorce is a death. And so there's a grieving period, but like with every other type of adversary things that we come against, we come out stronger, right? And so what I do is I let them know, yeah, this is what it is. I'm a very, you can tell I'm a very blunt, very realistic person. And then, but what you're capable after that, is the sky's the limit. You're afraid because you've been told. And absolutely, there's things like, well, I still got a 5-year-old, I still got a 4-year, so there's many things that you can do, digitally, online, work from home. I deal with people in Mexico, the United States, like all over the world. So, you know, are these excuses or are they reasons, right? So yeah, if you're on and then getting what you deserve. I mean, being a wife at home, if that's what you were doing and that you don't have a lot of financial, you don't have a lot of, you're not the money maker right now, that is important work. And if you have a spouse that they owe you the money, you're not poor and they're rich. You were wealthy together. You and your children are entitled to the same lifestyle. Now, if it's spousal support, obviously it's, decreasing over time, depending on, some people have mental health issues. They can't go back out to work. But, you know, that's also too men. Oh God, I shouldn't complain. I shouldn't do that. Often men will say, oh, I'm paying for your lifestyle when you're paying child support. No, you're not. You're paying for your freaking kids. And you're not even like scratching the surface of how much they cost, by the way. But and I'm not saying all men and I'm not a man hater, love men. I'm in any but women get that a lot. A lot of guilt, a lot of, begging for the money, men do not like to pay spousal support at all. They barely sometimes like to pay child support. And then they make the woman feel like that's something, I'm supporting your lifestyle. Yep. Going to the Riviera on that $550 with all 3 of your kids. But at the same time, so we feel like, but if that's what you're entitled to, because, I see people that have, spouses that were like doctors, lawyers, surgeons, women that have given up their own entire careers for somebody else's career and to be a good mom, and you're made to feel like a piece of shit for spousal support. No.
Yeah,
It,
I think what you've spot on about there is that they need to know that don't feel guilty about it because especially if you have an ex that's a bit of high conflict or abusive, right? So just make sure that they feel like no, this is not a gift is what I've gotten to. It's a gift. This is not a gift. This is what you're rightly deserving because of everything you've done in this marriage, right?
yes. And so, I recently saw, I meant to stitch it and do a reel with it. Maybe I'll do it today, but I recently saw something that said, this is what I do to earn, as financially, I earn the money, I do this, and this is the men. And the woman is like, I take care of the kids, I breastfeed, I do whatever. And that's great. Except if she doesn't have her own empowerment in any way, shape, or form, none of her own money, and no financial literacy, she's screwed if something happens. And I'm not talking about him leaving or being unfaithful or doing anything that happens every single day. I'm talking about he dies, right? Which you don't have any control over. So it's also very important, another podcast, to have like really open conversations in couples. Money and sex are still the number one reasons that people kind of like divorce. And so, if you'd have less clients, but there'd be less people divorced for sure if people had open, honest conversations in their relationship about money, or they understood how money story or your paradigms around money come into effect. That's one of the largest times that people do divorce, you probably know, is at the beginning of a relationship when you have children, because there's all that like lack of intimacy, everybody's fighting over who's contributing more, financially and emotionally, and who's more tired. And it's really a time that you got to have each other's back hard, um, and really appreciate what the other person is doing. But oftentimes, even after 20, 30 years, a woman ends up being told, you know what I mean, like, you don't deserve spousal support.
Yeah. I would love to have you back on to talk about that too later in the year. So before we go, you have such great coaching programs too. Do you want to tell everybody how to get in touch with you and what you offer before I ask our last question?
Sure. So I have one coaching program. So it's the beginning and the end. It's all you'll ever need. So it's called Rewrite Your Money Story. If you want to just link my, just get it in touch with me on Instagram. I'm right now building websites and all that other stuff. So I'm not giving out any of that kind of stuff right now. So it's basically 3 months. We do awareness, choice, and then transformation, which is, taking on a future self concept. So not deciding, my mother told me this, and like, I don't, we forgive our past and we look to the future. That's how I do it. Creating a quantum leap. We don't rehash it over and over again, even especially to this crowd in divorce. There's so much letting go. It is, you'll have a PhD in letting go, or you will be bitter for the rest of your natural life. I've spoken to people that I'm like, oh, that sounds tragic. Your divorce sounds awful. When was it? 25 years ago. What? Oh my God. Sounds like it was 2 days ago. Let it go, girl. So, we look to future self. And so that is mixed with financial literacy. So I mix the mindset of money with the mechanics of money. And yeah, I do a cohort every probably 2 months. One is coming up at the end of March.
I think it's brilliant. That's why I wanted to have you on. That's why like I said to you at the beginning, wow, you're onto something because when I first talked to you about a year and a half ago, I went, as I said, like, wow, my money story is brutal. Like my own, you know what I mean? And then you start looking at the world differently too, right? You go, this can really open up a lot of people's eyes, right? And I think this coaching for anybody really. I mean, this is a divorce podcast, but I think anybody could use.
Oh yeah, people in relationships, people that are young and single, people that are old. Like, I've had people in their 70s. There's never a time, to want more. I'm 56 years old, so I'm starting something new. So there's no, you still got breath in you. Like, it's so funny because even sometimes like in the relationship world, because you're in the relationship space, people will be like, oh, finding love later in life. I'm like, wait, am I later in life? So, it's almost like there's no time limit on anything, but yes, everybody can benefit from it. You will feel more ease. I mean, what is the point of having any money if you never feel that you have any money? People are worried, scared, up at night. It affects your health. And so yes, everybody could use it. I also wanted to mention, when you follow me on Instagram, I have a free, you do a free event every month. And I'm doing one on Sunday, so it's not going to be soon enough for this podcast, on, financial wounds, which is, so I usually, I'll go back to that topic. So don't worry, I'll come back to it another time. But that's another thing. So you're welcome to, sometimes people are not ready to make an investment in themselves. And so, you're welcome to attend as many live events as you want.
It's brilliant. So before we end, I ask everybody who comes on a question about, so for someone who is just separated, whether they left or were left, what advice would you give them to help them navigate those overwhelming early days?
Oh boy. Get vodka. No, I'm just joking.
It's a big question.
Yeah. What would I do? Oh God. It's twofold. What I would tell you is, oh my God, everything is going to be okay. It's actually going to be better than okay. That's if I could like sit you down and tell you. But what I would say in those early days is get professional help. Don't forget to, contact a mediator or a lawyer. If you're working in a corporation, oftentimes they'll give you like an hour of free lawyer. There's like all kinds of stuff like through benefits in different institutions or different corporations. Reach out to somebody financially. There's all kinds of rumors. So get the actual facts. People don't know the law, about common law. They don't know somebody can't just rob you blind. A spouse can't go in and take all the money in the bank account and like, what am I going to do? No, you will be legally required to put that money back. So you don't have to, so I'd say don't be scared. Don't be scared. It will be okay. That's what I would say. And get professional help.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? Get the right professional help.
Yeah, and lose your ego. Like immediately lose your ego. Like don't hire your own hotshot lawyer. Like if you can mediate. You know what I mean? You will be spending exponentially less money. That could be in your pocket, could be in your children's pocket. So lose your ego. If he cheated on you, that has nothing to do with your divorce. The courts don't give a shit. So that's your own problem. Work it out yourself. Don't start using, money and your kids and, just how do I get out? That's it. Like, what's the best path to get me out of here? Revenge doesn't help. Getting your lick back doesn't help. I always say forgiveness is for the forgiver. The person that you think you're, making sorry doesn't give a shit. Not even a little bit.
That's really good advice because the ego is, I've seen so many and still now it causes so much problems and it causes issues with your children. It causes issues with your spent bank account because you're just fighting each other.
Yeah,
It's a
I've seen people
battle.
spend thousands of dollars in court for $300 swimming lessons. Just pay for the swimming lessons. I've also seen people, I mean, the longest I've ever seen is people paying like $13,000 to $15,000 a year in legal costs, 13 years into a divorce.
Yeah. Don't do it. Great advice. And it was great to have you on. I'd love to have you back on and talk about that other topic. And thank you very much, Marni.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you for joining today's discussion with our divorce expert. Check out the show notes for more about our guest. If you're finding value in our podcast, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our YouTube channel at Divorce Workshop. Share your questions, comments, or guest suggestions. We'd love to hear from you. For a comprehensive divorce guide, check out our Just Separated workbook on Amazon worldwide. This workbook covers everything from emotions and co-parenting to finances, legal insights, and recovery, a must-have for anyone navigating separation or divorce.